This is part 4 in a continuing series I am doing on the Criterion channel year 1. I'm talking about the films I watched on the channel within its first year, as well as the charter subscription period before its official launch date, as well as the last video in the series is going to have some statistics about the films that I watched, a list of the standout films in case people aren't watching these videos and just want more of an overview, I guess, as well as pros and cons, things that I really like about the Criterion channel, and things in areas where I think improvements can be made. I have a lot of other information on the way I'm doing this, as well as some disclaimers and such in part 1, so if you haven't seen that yet, please watch that video. And I'm just recording these one right after another, so I'm continuing just right where I left off with number 59 of 92. Number 59, The Devils, a UK film from 1971 directed by Ken Russell. King Louis VIII and Cardinal Richelieu want possession of the city Loudun and to tear its walls down in order to have control and stop the spread of Protestantism. In Loudun, the governor dies, leaving priest Grandier. I think it's Grandier. I think the R is actually pronounced, but my brain doesn't want me to do that. Priest Grandier is in charge now of the city, and Grandier is struggling with certain ideas and practices of the Catholic Church. He breaks his vow to celibacy and marries a woman, which causes a nun in love with Grandier, Sister Jean, to ultimately accuse Grandier of witchcraft and of putting demons in her. And that's probably the most I wrote for a synopsis of this entire series of all these films, because there's so much in this film that I had to include every part of it. And I did not appreciate this as much as I do now. I originally gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Right now, unfortunately, it's not available on the channel, and I would really like it to come back so I can rewatch it. But even more so, I think this is definitely a film that's like just jumped to the top of my list of films that I want in the Criterion collection. And I know it's been rumored and a lot of other people want it as well. Not only have I gained more of an appreciation for it, and just like there's so much to it that I didn't get that I would like to, again, but that's one of the reasons why I want to revisit it, just to like see it more and fully take it in, especially since I've already seen it once, you know, now I know what to expect and such. But I've also learned about like how much, I guess like what a hell it's been in pretty much since its release, and it's kind of been tucked away and doesn't have a release unless it's like really expensive, really old releases of it, I guess. What I wrote for my thoughts on this was that this is a film I didn't really like at certain points and didn't completely get. However, I've seen it mentioned in a video that I watched that had to do with witchcraft, which I will link in the description. It's so good. Highly recommend it. It's Witches in Horror Movies, The History of Witches Part 3. So it's the series that In Praise of Shadows did this past October 2019, 3-part series of The History of Witches. And in part 3, which is, oh my gosh, that his video was part 3, that video is 1 hour, 42 minutes and 56 seconds long. But he's going through like every film, every like important film, I would think probably the more significant ones that have to do with witchcraft or a witch in some way. And so it's this video that I watched where I developed a new appreciation for the film and was like, whoa, I need to rewatch this. Yeah, there was just a lot to it that I didn't get the first time, and that, I don't know, I really appreciate the film now. Continuing reading my script, because I keep going off here, I think it's a film that I'm going to like and appreciate more over time and with another viewing of it, and especially watching video essays and supplemental type of videos that have to do with it, which is another reason why I really want it to be on the Criterion collection, because I would love to see more about like how it hasn't had a like release in decades and was like banned, but also like won the main award, I think, at Cannes. That could be wrong. I could be misremembering, but it's like this acclaimed film, but also at the same time suppressed, I guess. So I want to hear more about that, but then also getting the perspective of people who were involved in it, like from today, you know, like new interviews or something with the cast. If I don't know if any of them are like dead, but hopefully not. And just, oh my God, the potential. Yeah. So I highly recommend the entire video series of the history of witches that In Praise of Shadows does. But if you just want to skip to when he talks about the devils, it is 28 minutes and 45 seconds into the part 3 video, which I will link in the description. The whole video series is amazing, and like the amount of detail and work that was put into it is insane. But of course, part of it that really stands out to me was learning more about the devils and seeing it from a different perspective of somebody, you know, who you can tell that he really likes the film, and also mentions that he wants it on the Criterion collection. Like, if there's one film, he says something like, if there's one film that deserves a Criterion release, it's The Devils. And unfortunately, right now, it's not available on the channel. And that's me talking about The Devils for like 9 minutes. So then at number 60, The Lives of Others, a German film from 2006. Oh boy, this is directed by Florian Henkel von Donnerschmark. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. A playwright in 1984 East Germany secretly writes articles against the Stasi and is unknowingly put under surveillance by a Stasi officer who becomes caught up in the writer's life and starts questioning his work and the government. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Click the heart. This is it, people. This is it. I'd say it's between this film and one of the last films I watched that is my favorite film that I saw for the first time within the first year of the Criterion channel. Stunning, sad, but just so good. It looks great, it's riveting, and I got so caught up in it. And it's also devastating and heartwarming at the same time. And I want this on the Criterion collection. Like, I know I just was on about how The Devils does need to come to the collection, but this is one that I very much want in the collection. The Lives of Others, oh my gosh, if you haven't seen it, I just so highly recommend it. And this is one that I think anyone could like. The Devils is a little iffy because it's more controversial, but The Lives of Others is fantastic. Incredible film. And when I was looking up clips to put in this video, I was like, oh my God, I want to rewatch it. But unfortunately, it's not available currently on the channel. Number 61, Yentl, an American film from 1983, directed by Barbra Streisand. This is not on the channel currently, but I actually saw it like a couple days ago, available on YouTube Movies for free. So not sure how much the YouTube Movies for free like fluctuates between like being available for free and then like going off and only being available for rent or purchasing. Yeah, thought I would throw that in there because I saw that it was available to watch for free on YouTube Movies. I'll link it in the description. Anyway, Yentl. Yentl wants to study sacred scripture of Judaism, but as a woman, she's forbidden to. After her father dies, she pretends to be a man to study at a religious school. She also develops feelings for one of her friends and schoolmates who know her as a young man named Anshul. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars and clicked the heart. I really liked this, and I forgot that this was a musical, which is ridiculous because it's directed and stars Barbra Streisand. I don't really think of it as a musical. I think of it as a film that has music. You know, randomly, Barbra Streisand as Yentl will just start singing. I do think it does the same thing that musicals do, and like, you know, songs in musicals will reveal more emotion and the feelings and thoughts that that character has. It definitely does that, but I'm just differentiating that I wouldn't really call it a musical in the way that you may think of like West Side Story or The Sound of Music, or what's another one? Oh my god, The Phantom of the Opera. I love Phantom. Back to Yentl. There were some things that happened that I was very surprised by it going in that direction. Again, no spoilers. But at the same time that I was like, wait, is this really happening? Are we going here? Is this happening? I don't think I really have an opinion on like so much of it. I was just more caught up in the film, and it's just the way the film went, and I was taken on that journey, and I watched the film, and I was just engrossed in it, and I was experiencing it, and that's what happens when you watch a film. It's what happens when you watch a film. I don't know if you knew that, but yes. And again, not available on the channel, but on YouTube Movies for free. The number 62 is Blancanieves. So yes, this is a Spanish film from 2012, directed by Pablo Berger. That may be the wrong pronunciation. Oh, I actually wrote quite a long synopsis for this one, actually. This is a retelling of Snow White, where instead of being royalty of a kingdom hundreds of years ago, they are rich matadors in the 1920s. Carmen's father was a great matador who was injured, and Carmen's mother died during childbirth. He ended up marrying the nurse who helped revive him back to health, but her father did not fully recover. And the nurse becomes a wicked stepmother who hates Carmen and plots to kill her, obviously being a retelling of Snow White. Carmen escapes and finds herself with a group of dwarf matadors. And of course, I'm not trying to mean dwarf in an insensitive way, it's just because it's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, so I'm using the same term. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars and clicked the heart. This is a beautiful film. It's like in black and white and silent, and it makes sense for the story and setting of the film for it to be in black and white and silent. I could have phrased that better. I like it when there's kind of more significance or reasoning towards making certain decisions in the making of a film. As beautiful as it is, this is a film that has a lot of bummer downer moments. It's definitely a drama and not, it's a retelling of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but I'm not talking like Disney Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I really like Maribel Verdú, who plays the evil queen, or like Encarna, that's the name of the character. She's not really like an evil queen because she's not a queen per se, but Maribel Verdú, who you may know as Mercedes in Pan's Labyrinth, or Luisa in Y Tu Mamá También, who I didn't even connect that as her. I actually rewatched Pan's Labyrinth and I was like, oh my gosh, that is the woman who is in, I didn't know her name, but now I do. That is the woman who is in Blancanieves. And then when I looked her up more, I was like, oh my gosh, and she's in Y Tu Mamá También. I didn't even notice, but also that movie's from like 20 years ago, so that could give a little bit of an indication as to why I didn't recognize her straight away. Blancanieves is not available on the channel. Number 63, Blackjack, a UK film from 1972, directed by Ken Loach. A young boy during the 1750s accompanies a Frenchman by the name of Blackjack, who swindled authorities, surviving his hanging. They are making their way somewhere, and along the way meet a young girl who had been being taken to an asylum, and they also become part of a traveling carnival. This is a very odd premise. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's one of those films that was like, I liked it and it was good while I was watching it, but I don't think I would watch it again, and I definitely didn't love it, which is why it's one of those cases of having a pretty good rating but not giving it a heart. And this is not available on the channel right now. Number 64, Diaries, Notes, and Sketches, also known as Walden. This is an American film from 1969. This is directed by Jonas Makis, and this is exactly what the title tells you. Diaries, Notes, and Sketches. It's of New York and the art scene in the 1960s. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I don't have much to say, and honestly, all I really remember was like a short clip with Andy Warhol and Edie Sedgwick, because I love Edie Sedgwick, and that's also a reason why I watched it, because there were clips involving them in the film, and because I'm familiar with the two of them, that's probably another reason why I remember that part, because I'm familiar with them beforehand, which is probably good, or else they just would have been faces in this film and wouldn't have any significance to me. But also, that's kind of how I felt about a lot of this film, is just, I mean, it was nice, but also had insignificance to me. This is one of the few films I had on that, like, I feel I was more casually watching rather than fully paying attention to. That didn't happen a lot with these films. With when I watch the Criterion channel, if I'm watching something for the first time, I want to be giving it as much of my full attention as possible. And this one, I think I was working on something else at the same time, like on my computer, while also watching it. Yeah, I guess those are my thoughts, and this is not available on the channel right now. Number 65, Just Another Girl on the IRT, an American film from 1992 directed by Leslie Harris. Chantel is a black high school student in Brooklyn who is determined to go to med school and have a better life than the one she has now. But challenges that arise in her life jeopardize and threaten the future she wants. I give this a 3 out of 5 stars. There were a few lines in this. Oh my gosh, there was one line in particular, but there were a few lines that I just thought were hilarious. And they probably weren't supposed to be like that funny, but I found them really funny. On the other side though, the main character is quite frustrating. I don't mind so much her like cocky attitude. It's something that happens in this film, and the way she handles it, it's a major situation, and it had me worrying and frustrated. And I wanted the movie to be a bit longer, and delve into some of the problems and consequences more, but it just like sort of ended, and I was like, no, I need to know that she like realizes what was happening and what is happening. I don't know, I kind of didn't like how it like played it off cool at the end. It's a little difficult to talk about without going into the exact thing that happens, which I didn't know about going into the film, so that's all I'm going to tell you. I guess technically there are parts of the synopsis that I'm leaving out, but that's because I didn't know about them going into it. Am I reiterating myself? Is that just me repeating words? Possibly. But just saying that there are probably other synopses that include this information that I'm omitting from my synopsis and my thoughts. However, I had so many thoughts after I first watched this and when I was watching it, and I had to figure it all out. So I wrote it down, and I have a document on my computer that's just like 350 words on things that happen in this that I was just like frustrated by, but also wanted more from. Yeah, Just Another Girl on the IRT is not available on the channel. Number 66, The Italian Job, a UK film from 1969, directed by Peter Collinson. A heist man? There are words here I don't know right now. A heist man gets out of prison and immediately begins arranging for a big job that includes evading the police and the Italian mafia, and causing one major traffic jam throughout an entire city. Oh, I think it's because I wrote a heist man, and I was like, there has to be a more specific term for a man who does heists, and that's kind of like his job. I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. There's a lot of cars, so many cars, car chases, lots of stopped cars because they cause a traffic jam. It mostly is just like a lot of preparation beforehand and then just one major car chase. And those are the two parts of the film. And it was fine. It's not my type of movie. It was worth the one watch and it was entertaining, but it's just not my thing. And I have not seen the remake of this, but I'll probably watch it at some point. And this is currently available on the channel. If I'm not mistaken, it goes off at the end of this month, May 2020. Number 67, Cachet, a French film from 2005, directed by Michael Haneke. A family receives anonymous videotapes. They begin as mundane recordings of their street and front of their house, but it escalates and the father is specifically determined to find the culprit and make them stop. I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 stars, and to me this was not as suspenseful as it sounds. I feel like it's more about the way receiving the tapes is affecting the family. And there's, oh boy, there's one particularly gruesome scene that I felt was unexpected. Like, I didn't see it coming until the scene started unfolding, and I was like, oh no, this is gonna happen. Something's gonna happen. Yeah, but it was graphic, but also, if I say graphic, certain things may come to mind when I don't actually mean like that graphic. That was that was contradictory, wasn't it? But I'll say graphic in terms of being gruesome and a lot suddenly, especially for how uneventful in a way the film was up until that point. Especially in terms of any like stakes really being involved, or any, like, yes, they're receiving these tapes and it's very weird and they're concerned, but that's like about it until a little bit more happens. Is this making sense? But yeah, obviously I don't want to give anything away, but I'll just say it's a moment with like a lot of blood. But Cachet is not available on the channel. Number 68, Stranger by the Lake, a French film from 2013, directed by Anarchy. It's the summertime, and Franck frequents a cruising spot at a lake where he has friendly conversations with a stranger and falls in love with another stranger. Also, a body is found at the lake, a man having been drowned. Drowned as in murdered drowned, not just like he accidentally drowned. He was murdered. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. Prepare for nude men. Nude men sitting on a rocky shore, on all the little rocks. Ass naked. Nude men and sexual scenes. Like, as soon as you start the movie. 'Twas not expecting so much nudity. And all the sexual scenes. I don't have a problem with it. I don't really care. It was just really caught me off guard, and this is your warning. If you haven't seen the film, this is a slow burning film, but it works well in that way, which sounds kind of odd because the premise may sound a little like mysterious and suspenseful and like thriller, but it's not, which I feel like maybe actually with all the talk about nude men, you would know that there's not a whole lot of thrills, but they're definitely there. It's just interspersed between sex scenes or lustful scenes, and also conversations on the shore of this lake. And I like the setup and the camera shots of this, and like the setting, like, you know, it's a new day because a certain scene plays. Like, it's a shot of a parking lot, and the main character Franck like pulls up into the parking lot, and that's how you know it's a new day. And this shot is done from the same angle, and I don't know, I just sort of like that consistency, especially because it just completely takes place on this like lakeside, the shore, and then there's some like grassy areas. What's interesting, now that I'm thinking about it, and I remember thinking this before, but I didn't write it down, there's more that happens that you don't see, because it's like, for you, the film is only at this lakeside, is at this cruising spot by the lake. Characters have interactions like off screen, like at night after they leave the lake. So I think that's interesting, because there are parts that hint at things that happened or encounters, even though I don't necessarily think it's super significant. Like, everything that's significant happens on screen, but I still think it's interesting that there are interactions that you don't see that they talk about. But Stranger by the Lake is not available on the channel. Number 69 is Autofocus, an American film from 2002, directed by Paul Schrader. Bob Crane, star of the TV show Hogan's Heroes, secretly indulges in alcohol, sex, and pornography, but it starts to corrupt his life and facade of being an upright family man. It also leads to his death. I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I feel like there was little substance to this. I don't even know why. It just didn't hit as hard, or wasn't as engrossive. That's not a word, but I'm using it. It wasn't as engrossive as I thought based on watching the trailer. And I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars after watching it. I get that it was supposed to be about this sort of like this downfall of this guy, but I feel like certain consequences and situations weren't shown properly. It was just sort of like, oh, okay, through the dialogue, I know that he's no longer with his wife, or they're separated, or whatever. And I feel like we weren't seeing enough of other things that were really happening to him, because so much of the movie was like him and these things that he's indulging in. I should mention, though, that I don't actually know that much about Bob Crane. Obviously, this is based on a true story, but I don't know how much of it is exaggerated and whatnot, and also, like, Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe's character is named John Carpenter, and I had to, like, look up that this meant, like, not the John Carpenter director that most people have at least heard the name of. No, different guy. Completely different guy. Also named John Carpenter. Yeah, I've also never seen like Hogan's Heroes or anything, so I didn't go into this knowing really about the true story or about the people involved. Just what I got from this movie, and I haven't looked into it, like the real events, since watching it. So autofocus is not available on the channel. Number 70 and 71, I have two Italian films, both directed by Reynah Wertmüller. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I looked it up, but it was a little hard to hear the specific accents. So first, number 70, we have The Seduction of Mimi, an Italian film from 1972. A laborer votes against the Sicilian mafia and flees the city, leaving behind his wife and family. He starts his life in another city and falls in love, but the mafia leads him / force him back to Sicily, which complicates things. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. I had to remind myself what the plot of this was, because the next film kind of like, I watched them really close together, and I found the second one more memorable, and also I was mixing up scenes a little bit. It also has the same two main actors. One an actor, one an actress. For this film, though, I feel like the Letterboxd synopsis gives too much away, so this is another situation where there's a bit more to it. I just left it out and just kept it as complications arising. I found this funny and I liked it, but I liked the next one more. So number 71 is Love and Anarchy from 1973. A man stays in a brothel while preparing to assassinate Mussolini and falls in love with one of the girls there. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars and clicked the heart. This has, I already mentioned this, but this has the same two main actors as the previous film, and they're both spectacular. Giancarlo Giannini and Mariangela Malato. I didn't look those up, that was just me trying to say them. I really liked the setting of this one, the brothel and the rooms of the girls. I don't know, I just liked it. It's my taste, I guess. So I found this funny and like over dramatic, but in an Italian way, which made certain parts comedic. I don't want to make it sound like too much of a comedy though, because this guy is like he's mentally and emotionally struggling with this weight he feels for taking on this mission of like, he's going to assassinate Mussolini. And I do have to say that I feel like there's some political and just historical information that I don't know about so much for both of these films that I don't think make too much of a difference in watching them and understanding and experiencing them, but I do think that possibly knowing a little bit more about what was happening at that time in Italy would be beneficial, basically. Although again, they take place in different times. Like The Seduction of Mimi is, as far as I could tell, actually taking place in like 1972, which is when the film was released. But obviously Love and Anarchy, assassinating Mussolini, that's in like the 30s, I think. And I'm saying the 30s based on knowing that, looking up that Mussolini died in 1945, but also the costumes in this film look more 30s to me. Possibly even like late 20s, but I feel like that would be too early for the film to be taking place. Maybe I should just look it up. Okay, no, I could not find an exact date of when Love and Anarchy takes place. Yeah, so anyway, wrapping up, The Seduction of Mimi and Love and Anarchy are not available on the channel, and that is where I'm going to end this video, and I don't have enough time today to finish off the rest. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Comment below if you've seen any of these films and would like to share your thoughts or have any recommendations for me, or if you want to talk about these films. This is the one that started with the devils, right? Let's talk about the devils and the lives of others. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next installment.